Here we are again. It's Roto Hackers podcast. We are I always mess this up. We are the unauthorized source of information and entertainment. The Roto Hackers. We're underground right now. We are underground, coming to you live from undisclosed locations, COVID free. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, as far as I know, COVID free.
Yeah.
So that's
By the way, this is the stud. It's Jared.
Thank
And
you.
I'm Judah Buddha. I have to give you the proper entry.
I mean, it's okay. I think, by now to most of our listeners and viewers, it should just be known, Yeah, no, I'm good as far as I know. COVID free. Was furloughed. Our whole staff was furloughed for this week, but we're going back next week for the rest of the month, and then the organization will reassess where things are at that point. Things aren't going to be dramatically different at that point, but we receive a good bit of grant funding, and with grant funded organizations, there's certain things that they're letting them do in terms of repurpose grants that are, were given for such and such. A lot of those grantors, I guess, is what the term is for people who give out grants. Anyway, a lot of those are saying, okay, well, look, we realize this is a tough time. We're going to give you flexibility with what you can do with that money in terms of, meeting your operational expenses and payroll expenses and stuff like that. So we'll know more at the end of the month in terms of how much flexibility we have. And if that goes well, then I think our organization will be in pretty good position through the end of the year. If not, then that's going to be a different story. So everything's kind of heavily dependent on that, and we won't know anything really until end of the month.
Wow, it's kind of a scary time for you then, huh?
Well, honestly, I try not to complain too much about it because I always try to have a mental approach of how many people's situations out there are worse. And there's a lot of people's situations out there that are worse. So, like I said, I'm still employed presumably through the end of the month, and there's a chance everything goes well and it's locked up through the end of the year or so. Even if not, I can get, unemployment or whatever for several months. There's people out there who have just abruptly lost their jobs. I'm sure have all kinds of expenses in terms of kids and everything else, and in terms of all the stuff that I have, to worry about, it's not nearly as bad. So a couple of the old newspapers that I used to work for as a sports editor, one of them just laid off like half of its staff. One of them cut several positions where like when I was there, I had 3 sports writers plus a sports clerk. Now I think it's just the sports editor and 1 sports writer.
Wow.
And that was for what used to be a daily paper, and then they cut back their print publication schedule to 5 days at the end of last year, at the end of 2019. Or maybe it's the end of 2018. I can't remember, but they did that. And then now, because of all this, they've cut it down to Wednesday, Sunday. So within a, I can't remember. I'd have to look back and see when that was that they cut it down. But yeah, within a short amount of time, you go from being a daily paper to 2 days a week.
I've seen some articles saying that one of the biggest losers from this is going to be publications, like physical publications.
Yeah, it was a bad situation anyway.
Anyways,
newspapers Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got out in 2015
Mm.
when, I could just, I mean, by that point, you could clearly see the handwriting on the wall. Um, they had already been on on somewhat of a decline, but it's just gone more into a nosedive. So, but yeah, newspapers, magazines, yeah, it's a tough situation for those. So,
Hmm.
I hate it because not just because I was involved with it, but local news is just so important. Even though people, I think, the farther we go along, the less attention people pay to it. But um, the organizations I worked for were good organizations, and we had good staffs, and this is just going to be a great time for corruption because there's not going to be the local news resources there to really act as a watchdog. So
Where do you live? You live in near Gaffney?
no, I live sort of on the North Carolina Georgia line. So um,
Where's that?
it's in
Like
the
near
yeah.
Calhoun or
No, actually, I grew up near Calhoun.
okay.
But no, this is up more in the like around the excuse me, like the Blairsville, Georgia
Ah,
area.
yes. Okay. Blairsville, Blue Ridge area.
Yeah, yeah. I was born in Blue Ridge, and
Oh.
so yeah, up this way, kind of up on the line. So but I mean, that's only been the last couple years or so. For the most part, I was down in
Atlanta
sort of the
area.
Gainesville, Georgia area,
Um,
Alpharetta area, stuff like that when I worked for papers. So,
because we're looking at moving probably eventually, like right away, we're moving to the coast of North Carolina. But I'm looking at,
oh, really? Right? What's right away?
I mean, like in June or something like that.
Oh,
We're
okay.
gonna move to the coast. I don't know. I mean, COVID has really changed things. But the plan is to move there and sort of look for jobs. I'm looking at from Knoxville to Charlotte, somewhere in between there.
Okay. Yeah, we're within like what are we? Well, we're kind of like 2 hours from a lot of things,
Yeah, yeah, okay.
and then 4 hours from other things. So like
Like 2 hours from Chattanooga, 2 hours from
hmm
Knoxville.
yeah, right where I am. We're 2 hours from Chattanooga, 2 hours from Atlanta, 2 hours from oh gosh,
Greenville, maybe?
yeah, I think Greenville's one of the others, and then 2 hours. Oh, 2 hours from Asheville, North Carolina is the other one.
Yeah, we're
Um,
looking at Asheville as sort of. I heard
yeah,
some bad. What do you think about that area as far as living?
I don't know in terms
Mm.
of living there. It's become this sort of tourism heavy, sort of artsy community. I just know that in general about it. I don't know anything about what daily life is there. Actually, I was there how long ago? It's back in the fall, September or October, I think.
Mm.
I don't really normally have any reason to go there. I have a friend who goes there or who lives there now. I could ask him what it's like because he's only been there for about a year or so. But yeah, I don't really know all that much about it myself. I just had to go there for a day for a work seminar. Um, yeah, and then I'm like 4 hours from Nashville, 4 hours from Charlotte, and stuff like that. So it's not bad. I'm back in the area that I kind of grew up in, and when I grew up here, there was just nothing. It was for a kid. It was just misery,
Yeah.
And now it's not so bad. It's a lot of conveniences that were more limited to cities are now here, and you've got things like Amazon Prime, where if something is
Yeah.
not near here and you don't want to drive an hour plus to get it, then you can, just order it online,
Right.
have it shipped. And normally it's not going to be something that you need today or tomorrow. So,
And COVID is really like flattening the what do you call the
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's sort of like leveling the playing field.
leveling the
And
playing field.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, now in terms of like going to stores or malls or anything like that, you can't anyway. And so I did I did a little vlog about at the start of the year, I had just gotten into this hobby. I don't know if Ford ever mentioned to you last year, like how he got into sort of this hobby of like men's fragrances, like colognes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talked about, you did the vlog about, I haven't looked at it yet. 100.
Oh, that's right. I did tell you about that. No, not 100. I've tried like maybe 40 or so, just getting like little test samples and stuff like that off the internet. I've tried some in stores and stuff like that.
You never sent me the link. But
Yeah,
I guess I could have just looked it up.
I forgot to.
I'm looking right now.
I'll send it. I'll just send it to you because it's now buried, like I think in my page. But let's see here. So yeah, so I did that, and so it was.
Actually, Ford mentioned it this morning too.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at that. Yeah, so
you might not want to.
Oh, that's okay.
No, I'm saying the whole the whole thing was kind of, it was franty, very franty.
When is it not?
It's not always franty.
It's always franty.
This one was a little, like, even for me, like, it's a little.
Yeah. Oh, I it doesn't matter to me. I'm always like, let's go. I kind of want to come on and interview him about his COVID-19 theories. I posted, I don't know if he mentioned this, I posted on his Twitter account. He, I guess, had been just, I don't know, going off on different stuff about the hysteria of it. Is that yours or mine?
That's you. Good music.
It's just a random. I had a tab open, and it was just. I just had a tab open, and all of a sudden it just started. It was it was like a news tab, and it started playing one of those ads. But I posted that clip, the Game of Thrones, the impression I did from last year.
Yeah.
Where it was, I guess he was just like, he was going off on people on Twitter about his theories and how this was overblown and stuff like that. And so I posted the clip where I was talking about if aliens landed, how he would be on the alien side.
Yeah.
I said, like, Ford, the aliens are here. The race is COVID-19.
It's interesting. You should interview him. He talked about he did mention aliens in there somewhere. I perked up and like, what are we talking about?
That may have been what it was, because that was my point. Was, back then last year I was talking about just inevitably he always has this sort of contrarian response to everything, like whatever's the mainstream opinion. He gets like irritated by it, and then will just take this contrarian approach to it, So anyway, but yeah. Oh, now I can't wait. To go back and watch it. but he seemed to like what I said, or at least he pretended to. So
no, yeah, he I forget what he was talking about, but I mean, it's an interesting one.
I'll go back and check it out. But the men's fragrances thing. I did a vlog over that because I kind of got into that a little bit myself, sampling them at the start of the year, because I hadn't probably worn anything since high school. And then when I went down and visited him in Panama City last fall, I guess, into the summer, he had like suddenly got into it. And so it was just constantly this like, hey, smell this fragrance, Like, what?
so weird.
I know it was to me like what are we doing here? And and he was working at the time across from, or he was living across from, he was working that like hurricane cleanup relief job across from those guys that he worked for, living across from them. And so we went over there to talk to them one day after we got back, and so he would like go in and like get a couple of fragrances and be like, all right, smell this, what does this smell like, and I was thinking like Ford, they know Ford, and he
So
can.
if anybody's tuning in, you can see Ford at the Surfing Violinist. Go to YouTube Surfing Violinist.
Yeah. But like they know him and they know his personality and all this different stuff, but I was just thinking like, man, what if, I think like if your average person was just all of a sudden like suddenly getting into perfumes and stuff like that, and like, hey guys, to these blue collar guys, like, smell this, they would be like, man, you're crazy. But with him, it's like not that much different than any other like crazy thing he has going on.
Well, do you have you don't have a YouTube link to your vlog? It was only on Facebook?
Yeah, I haven't put it on YouTube. Yeah.
Then I'll put the Facebook one on there.
Well, yeah, you don't have to put I'll put it on YouTube later or something.
Okay.
Or I'll post it in the comments later or something.
All right, because I know Caleb doesn't do Facebook. I was gonna. Okay, so yeah, tune in for that. What is it? Is it Pony Stick? No, of your.
I'll put it. I may do a different one or something. I don't know, but I'll post it in the comments or something on this video later.
Looking forward to that. Okay. But we got to get to football here. Lately, the COVID has gotten us all over the place. We were talking before we went on air. I said we got to get on air and get this. You had some really good insight into draft picks that have been really valuable. I think that's what we were talking about, right? It's been so long now.
Well, we were talking about just kind of some of the interesting storylines for this draft, and then you started asking about like quarterbacks who had been taken in the first round, and how those had worked out, and things like that. So we were just kind of all over the place with it.
Right, but so there was that 2017. Was it 2017 when it was Watson, Mahomes? I mean, they got that Trubisky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the third member of the big three.
No, it was Watson, Mahomes, and there was a third guy. Who is it? It was really good. Jackson, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Lamar
was he that year?
Yeah, he was that year.
He was like the 10th pick.
Or wait, no, he wasn't. Sorry, that was the following year. That was 2018 because all those guys at the beginning were Baker, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, and then Lamar was at the bottom of the first round.
Gotcha. Yeah. Who were some of the other ones that came out of that rich first round of the 2017?
I don't remember any other big time guys besides Mahomes and Watson without looking at it. I mean, Trubisky went before them.
Yeah.
I think
I know there's one where I'm forgetting. I can't.
I'm wondering.
It was Rosen. No,
Rosen was the year with.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's
right. I want to say maybe it was Paxton Lynch.
No, he was before then.
Maybe so. There was somebody. I know there was somebody. Let's see. I am curious now because I think there was somebody towards the end of the bottom round.
I know when we see it, we're gonna be like, oh. Well,
no, I think that was actually it in the first round.
McCaffrey was taken first round. Wow.
Yeah, he was 8th pick. But that was
it. You're right.
That was it for
Mahomes and
for the first round.
Yeah.
Let's see who the next quarterback was. Yeah, so the next one after that was like sort of late second round, Deshaun Kaiser to the Browns. So yeah,
All right, so I guess it was just those two.
yeah, that was
But that
yeah,
was
that
a
was a
rich first round. Fournette. Some people I've never even heard of. McCaffrey,
yeah.
Mahomes, Lattimore. Wow, Watson.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was a good first round. 2017.
Wow.
2017 worked out pretty well for a lot of people. TJ Watt to the Steelers
Oh wow.
at the bottom of the first round. So yeah.
I remember that being kind of. I was with a friend. We were at a bar watching it. He was a big Bears fan. It was a cringe fest, even not knowing how these people would be.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, no one could understand the Bears trading up for Trubisky. Like,
yeah,
they were like the only team. They were basically bidding against themselves,
yeah,
and so they traded up. And I can't remember what they gave San Francisco to move up one pick, but it was like I think it was like a first round pick or a second round pick or something.
wow.
It's just nuts. I'm curious to look that up too. But yeah, and then to pass up, Deshaun Watson, which I mean, I can forgive Patrick Mahomes a little bit because he wasn't as much of a
People didn't know how well he had like a losing season with Texans, right? I mean, with Texas.
well, it wasn't even that so much as just like, they played that style of offense where, it's hard to really kind of project that to
Onto the NFL.
onto the NFL. And so he had great numbers, but you remember like the old Hawaii quarterback, Colt Brennan, he had like 50 touchdown passes in a season. So you can't, that doesn't always project that well. So, so you can't really go off of that. But Deshaun Watson, you look at everything he did, star high school player, star college player, won a national championship, set a record for passing yards against that Alabama defense. I mean, that really should have been people's clue of how good Deshaun Watson was because Alabama's defense was the closest thing you were going to get to a pro defense. And he's throwing for like 400 yards against them in the national championship. So to take Trubisky over him, I mean, and I think it was just even more insult to injury that Trubisky comes out of the same conference and, he played at North Carolina while Deshaun played at Clemson, and it's just mind boggling. But so they took him over him and Patrick Mahomes too. And just imagine, I would be just sick to my stomach if I was a Bears fan for the rest of my life.
It makes me sick to my stomach for them. It really does. And I'm not a huge Bears fan. I'm not a Bears fan at all. I mean, I like them. I don't hate them. Let's see. So we were talking about historically. You were saying that the Manning brothers coming out in the first round. That was
What?
people that were drafted. That was quarterbacks. We're focusing on quarterbacks that were drafted that people knew about, coaches knew would be good, and they did end up being good.
Yeah. I mean, there's rarely any of those just lock picks as a number one overall pick. Some of the, and even to a certain extent, like Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, guys like that have had a little bit of like controversy generated. I think that's probably, I think they were pretty well the consensus guys, like Manning over Ryan Leaf and Luck over RG3. I think that was probably a little bit more like sports media induced to, have a storyline leading up to the draft. But at the same time, there were, people who I think genuinely thought that RG3 was better than Luck, or Manning was, or Leaf was better than Manning, or whatever. So you get some of that, but there haven't been a lot of those guys. So we were just kind of talking about how most of the time you're not going to have that just lock stud player, and you have to think through things a little bit harder, even if you have the number one overall pick. So like this year, you know, the Bengals have the number one pick, Burrow's there, and I think it would be a shock if they picked anyone over Burrow. Yeah, Tua or Herbert, or, you know, or traded down. Even if they traded down with, say, Miami, and let Miami go up to get Burrow, and then the Bengals slid back and took one of those other guys, that would be, I think, a surprise too. So, and part of that is just like, for as good as his numbers were, and even though he's a good athlete, he's not like that, you know, elite physical tools like a Luck or a Manning or something like that. So, yeah. So what do you think in terms of, you know, Burrow is the presumed number one overall pick.
Yeah.
Is there any scenario where if you were the Bengals, you would not take him, or you would trade down 2 spots, 4 spots, whatever, and collect other picks and take someone else like a Tua or Herbert?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I would always trade down just because it is such a hit or miss. And since Burrow is not, I mean, he's definitely NFL. I mean, they say he's NFL ready. I don't know. So many times they say these people are NFL ready. I guess that's why I brought it up. The only ones I really remember ever being NFL ready were Manning brothers, Luck. Who else came out and just was a storm of a quarterback when they got in?
Yeah, that's kind of
It's not
hard.
very many people.
It's not.
I guess Watson kind of.
Yeah.
He was really rough though. He was really. I remember because AJ Herschel, the kid, and we had disagreement. He was a huge Watson fan, and I remember watching him and thinking, Watson, this guy, he's getting a lot of yards through running, but he was just making bad decisions, throwing a lot of picks, you know, when he first came up.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a much better fantasy player at first than he was a you know, real world player. He was still pretty good. He kept him in some games, but he did throw some interceptions and turn the ball over.
And he got real good real fast too. Like, he's a quick learner, obviously, real smart guy.
He did. Yeah. I mean, he just, at every level, he's been good, you know. High school set records. The last newspaper where I was sports editor, he went to one of the local high schools there. So, so his last, especially his senior year, I got to see a lot of him and, you know, interview him and different things like that. So, so of course I followed him more closely than I would have a lot of guys. And, you know, he went on to Clemson and was great, won a national title, and then, you know, just carried that on to the NFL. So he really doesn't have a weakness in his game. You know, I mean, he's got a great arm. He's mobile. He's smart. He's a great leader. You know, the only real, you know, I guess the two dings on him have been, he's had some trouble with injuries. You know, he's torn each one of his ACLs once in college, and then his rookie year actually in Houston. And then the other thing is, like, he's so good and he can create so much, though, that it's almost kind of like Barry Sanders at times, where Barry Sanders could have these spectacular highlight runs, but then, you know, he would try to do too much and run around in the backfield and, you know, lose 8 or 9 yards. So, so those have really been only kind of the two dings on Deshaun. It's going to be interesting to see now, like, losing DeAndre Hopkins, how that's going to affect him in the NFL. So I hate that for him, but yeah, he was, of course, successful very quickly. It just got cut short by injury. But yeah, normally most guys take a year or so to really kind of get going. Carson Wentz, his first year was not great. His second year, he really made that jump. Just a lot of those guys. And then, yeah, like we said, Mahomes didn't even play his first year. Right. Lamar Jackson played towards the end of the year, didn't
play great.
Didn't play great, and then came along. So it's tough,
Yeah. So I think I would not, if I was, I think I'd be more of a Moneyball type mentality when it comes to first round. It's just it seems to me in the NFL there's just too much gold to be mined in the rest. I'd rather have more chances than just having that one like sure thing, in Burrow.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If it was Tua, that might be different. If Tua hadn't hurt himself, if he hadn't been hurt, I think that would be a different story. But like the thing is about the Bengals is they don't need a running back.
Right.
And this is a great running back class from what I can see.
Mm-hmm.
It's not terribly awesome on the high end, but it just feels like there's a lot of real good quality running backs. Kind of like I'm looking at Zach Moss, AJ Dillon, Eno Benjamin, Keshawn Vaughn. Have you heard of him?
That name doesn't ring a bell.
But some real good prospects that. But so it's hard to tell. They do need a quarterback.
Yeah.
Did they let?
They still have Dalton.
Dalton.
They still have Dalton.
Okay,
No, they haven't let him go yet. I'm not sure how much of an option that is because I don't know what the cap hit would be. But they told him that they would do their best to try to trade him to a place that he would want to go. But it's a tough market right now. It's kind of like we've said, it's almost like musical chairs where you've got some guys kind of standing around without a spot right now. Cam, Jameis Winston. So I don't know what the market's going to be for Andy Dalton or if he might have to end up staying in Cincinnati, so.
I think he would make a great guy for Burrow to sort of watch for a while. Not because he's an excellent quarterback, but he seems to have good teaching. He's like one of those. We've talked so much about Josh McCown. He's not a great player, but he seems like a great guy and somebody who wouldn't mind sort of bringing somebody along. I don't know. That's just an impression more than anything.
Yeah. I mean, I think it definitely wouldn't hurt because you don't know exactly how much time Burrow's going to need. Typically, teams don't like to throw guys in anymore on that first game because the pressure that would be there with that would just be sky high, and so typically, like. At minimum, they don't like to throw them in the opener. They like to get them in the second game of the season or something like that. That was, I think, kind of how things went with Deshaun in Houston. I think maybe it was Savage. Maybe it was Tom Savage that was the guy that was there that they started.
You're right.
And then in Cleveland, was it Tyrod that was in Cleveland before they started Baker? And so
it took a long time. I think it took 6 or 7 games before they brought Mayfield in.
Yeah, I can't. I don't remember off the top of my head, but
and it took Tyrod getting hurt. I don't know, but he got dinged up.
Yeah,
to put him in. I remember the game they put him in. It was huge. I think Mayfield caught a touchdown in that game.
Well, yeah, I don't.
Trick play for him.
I haven't stored all those away in my head. But so they like to sort of, I think it kind of sucks for the veteran guy because I think they kind of like to let the veteran fail first so that the crowd's not going to turn on the young guy for underperforming. It's kind of like, well, we saw what we had with this other guy. It's not any worse than that. Let's give this kid some time to develop. So it kind of sucks for the veteran because they've got to kind of be the sacrificial lamb, especially in some of these, Rust Belt cities like well, Philadelphia is not a Rust Belt city, but somewhere like Philadelphia,
Kinda is.
especially, kind of, I guess. But it's more like, when I think of those, I think of more like Philadelphia is a little bit different than that. I think of like Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Indianapolis, places like that. Maybe lean a little bit more manufacturing and some of those things, whereas Philadelphia is, a little bit different. But like somewhere like that, they will boo Santa Claus. They will boo anything. And so, and other places, can be pretty harsh too. So they don't want them to just get their confidence crushed and right away by all these expectations going into the opener. Everybody's expectations are sky high. This is going to be the year that our team wins it all. We're going to surprise, and then all of that come crashing down on the shoulders of this rookie. So they like to at least kind of throw the veteran in there and be like, okay, let everybody just slow your roll a little bit. This is probably not going to happen this year, but look, we've got this guy for the future. Next year is going to be our year. Yay.
Yeah. Well, looking at the draft, it looks like Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's already said that they're going to take Joe Burrow. It's like a 98% chance. The only other one that they might take would be Justin Herbert, but that's not going to happen. So second pick is Washington. Looks like they're going to take Chase Young, which is interesting to me. Since Washington has, I guess they just have no trust in, what's his name? He keeps getting hurt. Got that weird name.
Can't help you on that one. I don't remember.
Blew out his Achilles.
Darius Geis?
Geis. Yeah, Juice. Yeah, I guess they have no trust in Geis and just going to go with Young.
Well, Young's a defensive end.
Oh, I was thinking he was running back. He's a defensive end. He's an edge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he's sort of the Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa type of this draft. So he played at Ohio State, had a good finish there, or had a good final season there. So yeah, I wouldn't rule out the possibility that Washington takes a quarterback. Can't ever.
It looks like about a 12% chance that they take Tua.
Yeah, I think it's possible, or they trade back or something.
Yeah.
Those 2, 3, 4 picks are really kind of, somebody could trade, somebody could do something unexpected.
Yeah, they're really up in the air. Miami, it gets interesting. Looks like they're probably it's like a 50-50 chance that they're going to take Tua or Herbert. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, because they've got multiple picks. And so I can't remember when their next pick comes in that round, but they've got multiple picks.
Not till 18.
Okay. But I mean, even at 18, there's a chance you could get Jordan Love, or, you could take somebody else there at 5, and then maybe, since they have multiple picks, trade up a little higher to still get someone like, maybe Herbert drops to 12, maybe Love drops in that range. So Miami has options. Supposedly, I think it's, I can't remember which analyst it is that says that they're just completely in love with Burrow and want to trade up to get him, but
it looks like they want to trade up.
Yeah, Todd McShay. I think it's Todd McShay. But it'll be interesting to see what they do there if they can't get him. Do they have somebody else they like? Okay, or are they like, nah, we're going to go with some other position here, and then we'll get our quarterback with our next pick. So I kind of like that. I kind of like when it's fluid and unknown, and you don't know exactly what's gonna happen with it. It makes it more interesting.
Well, this is going to be an interesting draft. There's so many moving parts, especially with Miami having so many picks and able to there might be a lot of moving around,
I think there could be. Yeah. And
go ahead.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is that a lot of these players, evaluations of them are all over the board,
Yeah.
from Tua to Herbert to Love to Eason. I mean, like they could go anywhere from, the first few picks, most of those guys could, to bottom of the a couple of them, bottom of the first round, like Love or Eason. So yeah, it really is. The evaluations team to team, I think they're gonna evaluate them very differently, and that makes it harder to predict.
Next, with the sixth pick is Los Angeles Chargers. Looks like they really want Herbert, but who knows if he's going to last that long? He probably will. Looks
Yeah.
like Justin Herbert will. But they are apparently really looking to trade up. They are trying hard to shop around. Do they have other picks? What are they going to trade? What do they have to trade?
Yeah, I don't know that. I think they would probably have to trade like later
Next year's
picks, or next year's first rounder or something like that. But the Chargers, they desperately need a quarterback. I think their option right now, I think, is Tyrod. Unless the draft doesn't work out and then they end up signing somebody like Cam or Jameis or somebody like that. But you would think that, like, moving into a new stadium soon and changing your logo and all these different things, that's just the perfect time to draft your franchise quarterback. So I would think, they would want to go in on somebody like Justin Herbert or something like that, because they have those receivers. They lost Melvin Gordon, but they still have Austin Eckler. They've got a pretty good defense with Joey Bosa and Casey Hayward and some of those guys. So,
yeah, everybody should be coming back healthy.
Yeah,
if they can keep them healthy.
If they can keep them healthy, yeah. They got Hunter Henry at tight end, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. They've just got all these weapons. And so if you can get a young quarterback on a rookie deal, then you hope that he, develops quickly, then that's an opportunity to win a Super Bowl there, in sort of the mold of the way Pittsburgh did with Ben Roethlisberger early in his career, the way Seattle did with Russell Wilson. So I would be shocked if they don't take a quarterback there.
Okay. So quick question. You're the Los Angeles Chargers. What would you mortgage? What would you trade to get a higher pick? Someone worried that maybe Justin Herbert won't be there, wanting to get a Burrow, although that'd be hard, or maybe a Tua.
Yeah, that's tough, because I think the first thing you do is you look to see what happens with 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Because if you get, of course, to Miami and no one at 5 and no one else has taken a quarterback, then you're either going to get Tua or Herbert if you're okay with either one of those.
Yeah.
Or maybe if you like Love. There's some analysts that say that some teams prefer Love to Herbert. So
really?
Yeah. I think it was McShay that thinks that Love might actually go to the Chargers at 6 over Herbert. So,
well, Love will. I don't think Love's gonna get taken in the first 5 rounds. That doesn't seem.
In the first 5 picks or the first 5 rounds?
I'm sorry, first 5 picks.
I was going to say that's a bold prediction.
Hot takes here, baby. It just seems like you got Detroit Lions. Maybe Washington might take Love. But Detroit, New York, Miami might take Love. I doubt it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Detroit or New York are going to take a quarterback. Obviously New York won't. I suppose there were rumors that Detroit might try to take somebody and trade Stafford, but now at this point, I don't think you do that, because again, looking at the landscape of the rest of the NFL,
you can't trade him,
where you might not have a place to, ship him to. So I think that the real danger there is someone like trading up above you. But I don't know if
I think Detroit trades down with the Chargers.
yeah, yeah, maybe so. I mean, I guess if you're the Chargers, you kind of try to get a feel for what Miami's going to do.
Yeah.
If you really only like one guy, if you really only like Herbert or Love or Tua, then it's probably worth it to trade up a couple of spots and give up something if you think that's your guy. I mean, I think kind of my philosophy is if you think someone's your guy, you've got to kind of trust go get him. You've got to trust your evaluators, and if you don't have good evaluators, then that's on you and them. So, so I think you do that if you're them, but they can kind of look to see if you get through, if they like a couple of those guys and you get through 2 and 3 and no one's traded up, then the tough part I think comes in at 4, because then you risk someone jumping up at 4 to get the guy, and then Miami's at 5 and they could take another guy, and then you're kind of left holding the bag. Whereas if someone trades up 2 or 3, then you can say, oh, our guy might not be there. Let's trade up to 3 or 4 above Miami to get him.
Right. But here's the thing, though, is about the 4th pick going to New York Giants. The Giants, I think, have their guy. They want the 4th pick. Mm-hmm. But I think they're looking way more at linebacker, offensive tackle. I'm probably going to go with like Mekhi Beacon or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they may.
It feels like they have their guy and they don't care what everybody else is doing because they're focused on defense. They're one of the only teams in the top 10 that their whole, of course, then again, if you're the only one in the top 10 that is focused on defense, maybe you trade down.
Right. Yeah, it's tricky. So
I don't know if do the Giants typically trade down? I don't think they do.
That was what I can't remember. There was basically like an article I read talking about like how I think it was maybe Cincinnati, the 3 GMs for like Cincinnati, the Giants, and the Lions had never traded down.
Wow.
I think that was, I know it was at least, it was like 3 teams, and I think it was those 3. But you can't really go by that, and every situation can be different. So it's possible. But I don't know. I'm curious to see what there within the first 5 or 6 picks. I think I have sort of an idea, I think, of what teams will do. But then you get somebody like Carolina or somebody like that, where if there's a quarterback there, do they take them even though they signed Bridgewater? Or do they go for another position? Because Carolina really now is sort of rebuilding in a way, because they've lost guys off that defense, which was already bad last year before Luke Kuechly retired. I think they lost one of their cornerbacks. And so, that's a team that they've got Christian McCaffrey. They've got a good receiver in DJ Moore. And, beyond that, there's a lot to rebuild there.
You're right. And looking at it, that makes me go back to the idea that New York is not going to trade down because they want to get like Isaiah Simmons or Mekhi. Was it? Did you say Beacon or Beacon or?
I don't remember how to pronounce his last name. Yeah,
like they are going for I say like too much. I watch my podcast. I'm like, this guy says all the time.
I say like and too much.
Well, let's hold each other accountable. Every time I say like, kill me. All right. So, but the Arizona Cardinals needing Arizona Cardinals and Carolina. Well, let's say Arizona Cardinals and Cleveland Browns. They're going to be looking for offensive tackle. Maybe they don't want as much defensive players, but if the Giants want to get into the offensive tackle game and they want to get Beacon, then they're going to have to use that 4th. They can't trade down, if that's their guy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Arizona's needs changed once they traded for DeAndre Hopkins, where a lot of people were projecting CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy to them at that pick. But once that trade happened, of course, now they don't need a receiver. So, of course, they need some defense too. But really, with what you've got invested in Kyler Murray, you really need to protect him more.
Yeah.
So I would think they would go. And Arizona's line has been horrendous forever. So they really do need to go with an offensive lineman there. But yeah, I think too, what's interesting is, of course, we're looking at it from a team standpoint, but I think just maybe to switch gears a little bit, because I think you've got to go in about 20 minutes or so, don't you? So, so I think, like, just from a player standpoint, it's kind of interesting to think about what's best for some of these players, because, like, going back to Joe Burrow again, some people are like, man, he should just say he will not play for the Bengals, because that place has just been a black hole. Or they haven't really wanted to spend money. They've got a cheap owner who just kind of seems to want to own a team and doesn't really want to put money into the team. And I think Carson Palmer was even sort of advising against him going there because of his experience there. So, but of course now Burrow is from, I think, Ohio, and that would make things a little more awkward in his home state if he said he wouldn't play for a team in his home state. So I think if that wasn't the case, he might be a little bit more inclined to do that. But I don't think he's going to do that. It would be interesting to see if there's anything that really kind of goes on behind the scenes where he's like sort of just low key, like, guys, I don't want to play for you. Let's not spread that around. But like, if you can get some good picks, for me, let's just do that. We'll both be better off. So, but at the same time, like, how much better has Miami been over the last 10, 15 years or so? So, it's a tough spot.
It's kind of a crapshoot.
It's kind of a crapshoot. It's not like a year where the Colts had been good for so long and then all of a sudden tanked and got Andrew Luck.
Suck for luck, man. I remember that.
Suck for luck. And next year will be tank for Trevor, or this coming season will be tank for Trevor.
Man.
I was when the Colts got off to, the Colts actually, they got off to an okay start, but then they started losing, and they were having all these missed field goals by Adam Vinatieri. And people are just like, why are they not cutting him? Cut Adam Vinatieri. And I'm just like, look, Colts are not going anywhere this season. They're not going to be a playoff contender or anything like that. So I was doing, instead of like, suck for luck or tank for Trevor, I was throwing out a more cumbersome blown kicks for Burrow.
I like that.
Like, look, I'll shoehorn this in, however. But that's not going to happen.
Well, where would you like to see Jeudy go? Like, where do you think he would have the most impact as a fantasy player? Jeudy or Lamb? It's Jeudy or Lamb, because I kind of think they're about the same. Yeah,
that's the thing is you're not entirely clear who's going to go first between those two. I would say originally I would have said Arizona before they made that trade. I think the first team that really jumps off the board in terms of needing a wide receiver is the Jets at 11.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold, but there's no way to know for sure which way they're going to go. But really, 11 and 12 both. The Jets at 11 and the Raiders at 12. Because you look at the Jets, they lost Robbie Anderson. They don't have anything resembling a number one wide receiver. They need a weapon for Sam Darnold. Although I think they could, probably stand to improve their offensive line too. But to me, like, those guys, Lamb and Jeudy, are so good. I would go ahead and take one of them there and, try to find a tackle or a lineman somewhere else. And kind of the same thing for the Raiders at 12. The Raiders have Tyrell Williams was their number one option. They had Hunter Renfrow last year, who was I think a 3rd round pick or so. But they don't have a true number one wide receiver. If the Raiders aren't going to go quarterback there, like say Herbert or Love is there, and they don't love either one of them, no pun intended, then I think they need to go receiver there, because they don't have they don't really have a threat, a real weapon there. So those are the two spots that I think really those receivers make the most sense there, because you look at most of these teams in the first round, even up through and beyond the midpoint of the first round, and they've got a good number of weapons, at least a guy, and
the Raiders have 2 picks too. So even they got it again in 19, and it doesn't look like they have much competition, other than because the Broncos could take someone like Judy,
the
Lamb.
Right. The Broncos are a threat there. I think too, like Philadelphia at 21, they are desperate for a receiver. Maybe they, could trade up a little bit or something like that. Although that would be tough for them. It would be tough for them to go all the way up to, like 10 or something like that. But if you're the Raiders and you wait to take your receiver at 19, say you want to go with another position at that 12 pick, and you try to wait to 19, the Eagles could always flip with the Dolphins at 18 or something like that to get if Judy slipped or something like that. So I think if you're the Raiders, you go ahead and take your guy, your receiver there. So really, I think Lamb and Judy should probably go back to back at 11 and 12 if someone doesn't snag one of them before that, because they're both so talented, and I think they're both pretty well NFL ready, but I think it's just sort of a need issue of where Carolina has bigger needs. The Cardinals just traded for a receiver. The Jaguars have Chark and some of these other guys that emerged last year. The Browns definitely don't need a receiver, and so it's really hard to see where unless Miami just did something crazy at 5, because they could maybe use another receiver or something, but unless they did something crazy or someone trades up, there's really nobody before the Jets and the Raiders at 11 and 12 that have receiver as their top priority.
That's fascinating. Yeah, it seems like the Raiders and who was the other team we're talking about?
The Jets.
Yeah, the Raiders and the Jets just kind of have, unless people trade up, they sort of have their pick of the litter. Like either of that, like I think Judy and Lamb will go in those spots right there. Is it like 11 and 12? I lost my place.
Yeah, it's 11 and 12. And I mean, inevitably you typically have mock drafts don't really end up usually reflecting how things end up going after the first few picks. So you could always have someone do something expected and draft just based on what they thought was the best talent. But I think especially if you're the Jets, I would be super confident that one of those two at minimum is going to be there at that spot. So I think the Jets for their receiver need are in the best spot, because one of them could go before and you're left with the other, and I'd be fine with taking either one of them. The Raiders, if you're the Raiders behind the Jets, then it gets a little dependent on what happens with them maybe, but the Jets especially are in a great spot, I think.
So someone who would probably want to trade up, probably the most likely, maybe not most likely, but San Francisco 49ers. Why do all the pundits think they need a wide receiver?
Well, I've seen some of that. I've seen sort of a mix of things. Like I was looking at a couple of mock drafts this morning that had him taking like cornerback. Like the one I'm looking at right now has him taking CJ Henderson, this cornerback out of Florida. I guess the mentality is I agree. I don't think it makes sense for them to take a receiver there. They're
they're not going to get Lamb or Judy.
Most likely not. Most likely
not.
Not.
Pick.
Probably not. And so I would not take a receiver if I were them. I mean, you've got you're heavily running game based. You've got one of the two best tight ends in the game, George Kittle. You've got Deebo Samuel, who emerged last year. And sure, you lost Emmanuel Sanders, but you got to consider that Deebo Samuel is going to be taking a leap forward next year. And they had all of these guys who were just catching balls for him. Like none of these guys were having a great, standout season, but they would have, a game where they emerged or all these different things. So really, I think you can go with Deebo as your number one guy and, just have those younger pieces around him, especially since you're the type of offense that you are. Emmanuel Sanders down the stretch, I mean, how much was he really even used at a lot? I mean, he got hurt too. He had that core muscle injury, I think. And so it's hard to know how much that affected things. But yeah, if you're San Francisco, I don't think receivers are really your need, unless just one of those guys happened to be there. And then maybe you take one of them.
Well, maybe the argument is they're already so stacked at defense, even offensive line. Why would you take anything else? Like, it seems like their only real vulnerability that they need to shore up would be wide receiver. Even as you say, I agree with you. I like their wide receiver core just based on how they use the wide receiver core. But maybe the argument is, well, what are they going to get? Another defensive lineman, another offensive lineman?
True. Yeah. There's nothing they can really do to that defensive front. Well, they did trade DeForest Buckner.
Oh, did they? I didn't see that.
So that was the guy. He was the defensive tackle that they traded to the Colts to get this pick. So, so they could.
Well, that would be weird to trade your DeForest Buckner to get a different offensive lineman.
True. Or defensive lineman. It would be. I don't know how much of it was a money issue because the Colts gave him a massive contract. And so with the guys that they have under contract, it could, I think was partially a money issue. So they could go defensive tackle there. But you got to consider, I think what some of the thinking is, sorry, I just got a text. A buddy of mine texted me a tweet from Adam Schefter. I was just checking to see what
virtual draft. I think it's something about.
Yeah, I guess this was just about. Okay. So high-level officials from multiple NFL teams are now preparing to do the April 23rd to 25th draft virtually from home, away from their team facilities. League sources. That's interesting because up to this point they had kind of talked about everybody doing it remotely from their team facilities. So that's going to be even kind of stranger to see people doing it from their homes. But now back to what I was saying though. With cornerback here, the 49ers were starting Richard Sherman. He's 32 now. And, just like we saw with Xavier Rhodes last year in Minnesota, and Rhodes was just 28, 29 at the time. And then all of a sudden, went from being elite to burnt toast. So I can see the argument for quarterback there because Sherman's already not a fast quarterback.
You're right.
He's a guy he's old and he's always benefited from having a great defense around him. In Seattle, he had a great defense around him. In San Francisco, he's got a great. So I think if you just left him one-on-one with, especially fast receivers, that's not going to play out well for him. So I can see the argument. To me, that's more of the argument is cornerback over receiver, unless you've got a guy like Lamb or Judy there where, then at that point it's hard to pass on that kind of talent.
Well, then the last thing I'm curious about is where I want to hear your final words on Love, because where I see him going is the New England Patriots at 23.
Mhm.
That's interesting to me. How good is Love, and why do you have so much? It seems like you really like him as a player.
Well, I think he's interesting. I don't know that I necessarily like him that much. I always have to avoid saying love, love, because then you're like, just I didn't mean to. Wasn't trying to be punny there. But like I said, Todd McShay seems to think that he could go like number six to the Chargers. That some teams favor him. That's what I can go with. Favor Love over Herbert. The thing that scares me about Love is that the NFL is such a copycat league, and when the Rams hired Sean McVay, everyone was then trying to find the next Sean McVay. And the same thing happens when you have a quarterback that comes along that's a star quarterback. And so that guy's been Patrick Mahomes. Well, now everybody's trying to find the next Patrick Mahomes. And so I think when you start looking for something, if you look hard enough for it, you're going to find it whether or not it's actually there.
Yeah, I heard you talk about that before. That's a good point.
Yeah, so that's the thing that scares me with Love is it's really tough. He's really tough to evaluate, but because he played at Utah State, they hardly played anybody. He had, but at the same time, he didn't really have much talent around him. And so
is this an African American quarterback who's good at running? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, I hadn't really gone into that, but yeah, I think he's biracial. But I mean,
he's got that like RG3 prototype that people are looking at.
Yeah. I mean, he's again like very Mahomes like in a lot of ways. He just sort of looks like Patrick Mahomes. He moves like Patrick Mahomes. He will change his arm angle like Patrick Mahomes.
Interesting.
Just a lot of different little things like that. So there's, but again, that just kind of scares me because what are the odds that you're going to, this guy who reminds people of Mahomes in so many ways is going to actually end up anywhere on that level. So
what are the odds lightning's going to strike twice here? Yeah.
What are the odds that lightning's going to strike twice? Right. So that's the thing that kind of scares me about him. I think he is just the biggest wild card in that draft because I think you relatively know what you're going to get with Burrow. With Tua, the problem isn't really talent as much as injury, and then with Herbert, I feel fairly safe about him. Not that he's going to be a superstar, but I think he's just got enough going for him that he's not going to be a bust. With Love, I think the ceiling is sky high and the floor is about as low as sky low. That's going to be the term. That's going to be a term we use. His floor is sky low.
Hey man, sky's on the bottom too, buddy.
Yeah. So Love is really the toughest one to project for all those reasons. So I have no idea where he's going to go. I could see him. I could see him going. Let's say he makes it past that first part of the first round, and let's say he makes it past, the middle of the first round. Then you start getting into, like the Raiders at 19. Let's say they go with a receiver. Do they then want to take Love at that spot if he's there? Do the Jaguars? Want to take him at 20? They could take him at 9. The Jaguars, how sold are they on Minshew?
I think they're pretty sold on Minshew.
Well, but he's great as an attraction because he's this kind of crazy guy with the crazy outfits and the mustache and all that. But, are they going to, is he really, are they sold on him as their quarterback of the future, more than just like an attraction? So I think they're a possibility to take a quarterback. But yeah, so really, I mean, Love could just go anywhere. I think it is possible.
It's interesting.
I think it is possible. I think the Patriots would be the most interesting one to me, because he doesn't really fit that Bill Belichick mold.
Yeah. That would be somewhere where he would go, where he wouldn't be playing behind, like they would have to really believe in his talent.
Well, they've got, I guess the plan as of right now is to start Jarrett Stidham, who was the Auburn quarterback. And it will be really interesting to see. I kind of want to see that play out, because I want to kind of see if Belichick can, turn a guy like that, because that's really, because he's kind of a Tom Brady type,
is he?
Okay. And so
interesting.
There was actually a memo, like an old memo. I can't remember who put it out, but it was like someone that had worked with Belichick years and years ago, like before he became what he is now. And it was like his tier, his hierarchy of what he looked for in a quarterback. And it was all about like making good decisions on the field and accuracy, and then arm strength and all this stuff.
He had he had a rubric.
He had a rubric, and I'll find that for next time. That'll be something we can maybe talk about Tuesday night or whatever. But it was interesting. And so really, Love doesn't necessarily, I don't think, fit that. And so it would be very interesting to see, like, if Belichick adapts his philosophy to the modern NFL, where a guy like Patrick Mahomes is showing like how much different it can be. So I think that would
or like Lamar.
Or Lamar.
What's his coach name?
Harbaugh.
Harbaugh. Like Harbaugh just saying, look, I'm going to adapt to Lamar and show how good of a coach I am despite the system.
Yeah, right, exactly. So that I think would be very interesting. I would almost kind of like to see him go to New England just to see if Belichick would be willing to do that, and how well he could do that.
Adapt
to that. So I don't know if that's
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen, but wherever Love goes, there will be a lot of eyes on him. Excuse me. There will be a lot of anticipation of seeing him finally get on the field, and maybe it does take a year or so, but there'll be a lot of anticipation to see him get on the field, to see if he can be sort of this Patrick Mahomes clone.
Interesting. I think I might put him Chargers. I'm thinking about putting him in Chargers, because it just seems like a Chargers thing to do, to take him and let what's his name,
Herbert,
Ty God, be the main quarterback for a while, and then Love comes in and takes over. Poor Tyrod.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to know, like, if you're the short-term solution, the short-term stopgap for Baker, then you're just going to be a short-term stopgap for someone else. And some of these quarterbacks, like Chase McDaniel, has made a very good living, earned tens of millions of dollars in the NFL for playing almost no snap. I mean, I would take that sort of life in a heartbeat. I
would too.
Your average fan is going to throw off and be like, Chase McDaniel sucks. Like, well, yeah, he's got tens of millions of dollars, and he's not had to have his body and brain beaten around. So yeah, he's not going to be a guy who's ever, hardly remembered for the NFL, but just in terms of a guy who made it
job.
It there, got the experience of being there, but didn't have to, that's a great situation. I mean, that's something that fans don't really seem to appreciate, is like, there's 32 starting jobs in the NFL. Like you can be like, oh, Kirk Cousins sucks, or Andy Dalton sucks, but those guys were good enough to be one of the 32 best in the world for. I mean, like there's no shame in that, So, but everybody's, it's either it's like Ricky Bobby. If you're not first, you're last. So
Yeah.
it's like NFL fans have that Ricky Bobby mentality.
Yeah.
So.
All right, well, I got to go, but let's hit the chat real quick. We have Ryan N's back. I hope you're still, he's not watching us anymore, but hey, Ryan N, sorry.
I didn't know we had, messages. We should have told me to shut up so we could get to I can't see those. So
yeah, I'm sorry. No, I didn't see him either. I was looking at stats and stuff. Hey, Ryan N, if you're watching again, he says, Tom Brady.
In his living in Derek Jeter's mansion. He's quarantined in Derek Jeter's mansion in Tampa right now.
Is he really?
Yeah, it was like I think a $30 million mansion that he's renting from Jeter while he's there. It just looks like a compound of some kind. So
wow, interesting.
So quarantine's going fine for Tom.
Yeah. And then Ryan Rico, buddy of mine, says, hey, Judah. Just tuning in, I guess. So, hey, Ryan. So we got the Ryans in the...
right.
So someone tuned back in. Maybe it's Ryan. Maybe it's Ryan N. Hey, Ryan N, if you're tuning back in, just want to say hi. But we are actually wrapping up here. I've got a meeting I got to go to. Well, virtual meeting. So if anybody do you have anything you want to, any last words, any ideas, stuff that we can, so we're going to put together, me, and AJ are going to put together mock draft for, like, I think we should have a prediction maybe for the first 12, because after that it's impossible, but of the NFL draft, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, we can do that. I'll be happy to talk about what I think the Colts should do. Maybe we can also have some little ideas about what our teams, Packers, Bears, Colts, what ideally we would like to see them do. So,
Packers I don't think they draft till. That's what's hard about being a fan of a winning team is the draft.
Yeah, they have the 30th pick. So they're. I don't know that they could take a receiver there, or
looks like they're so Denzel Mims, if he falls to 30th pick, looks like they're trying to get him.
The one I'm looking at, has this Colorado receiver Laviska Shenault. He's got a really strange name, but
interesting.
But he had a great year for Colorado. I don't think he ran that well at the combine. I think he got hurt after his first. I think he got hurt after his first 40 run. Yeah. So he had a 4.58 40, which is not good, really. But
okay.
But we've had other guys in the past that haven't had blazing fast 40s at the combine, came back and ran faster at their pro days. So that's not necessarily a killer, but maybe he's an option, or. It's a very deep draft for receivers. So if they want to get somebody else to pair with Devontae Adams, then they're going to have some options there.
See, I will talk about this next week, but I have some different ideas for them. We'll see. All right. Well, dude, stay safe. Get out of the house today, man. You said it's a beautiful day. Go for a walk.
Yeah, I've been going to the park every other day or so to walk and run a little bit. So. But then, of course, it's pollen season in Georgia too, and so then I pay for that too. So it's just it's a no-win. It's a no-win right now. You're trying to, it's like I don't know. It's like playing a game where there's all these different little things trying to hit you and get you, and so you've got like coronavirus here and pollen here, and all these different things. And so you're like trying to dodge and weave. So.
I would not be surprised if after this we see, like, if society becomes way more like Demolition Man, we have like these people literally go underground and start making society happen there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start digging. I gotta go dig a tunnel.
Yeah. Right. Back into the tunnel. All right, man.
All right, brother.
See everybody Tuesday night. I guess.
Yeah, hopefully I have no. I guess AJ Herschel's on assignment. He wouldn't answer my calls. I don't know. He's somewhere. But all right. Well, stay safe, stay happy, and we'll see you soon.